Welcome to the Sharpcast, where we will talk about puppies and all things nice.
Get that shit out of here, motherfucker! Sharpcast, make your brain blast! Political conversations don't let you think! Yes, Sharpcast, it'll make your brain blast! Come and sit down and have a civil debate!
Welcome to the Shabimble-Wimble.
Oh, God.
The Shawoople Duty.
The very professional podcast that we call the Sharpcast.
Yes, very, very professional indeed. Of course.
Now with merchandise.
Anybody that's
We
familiar
wish.
with this. Anybody that's familiar with this, I have with me my co-host Helios, whom was only able to promote this thing through Twitter. Once I tweeted it through a kind retweet. bit of a fucking cloak and dagger going on there, but
I'm gonna start going around on the shirt. I'm wearing a shirt saying Sharpcast. We need Sharpcast T-shirts. I think that we can wear around at our workplaces
Or
get some
or
like
something.
word of mouth going.
yeah, no, I'll totally wear a Sharpcast T-shirt around my primarily conservative workplace.
Well, they don't know that we come on here and we dunk on the GOP more often than not.
Yeah, I don't think you understand this. Boomers are smarter than people give them credit for. They're like, oh, what's this thing? I guess I'll look it up. But,
Well, on the bright side, now that we've kind of we've gone from one presidential administration to another one, maybe we'll be able to kind of swing back and dunk on the left a little bit more as well. Maybe. We'll see. Who knows? Fingers crossed, right?
We could just dunk on both of them. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, I know. We just so everyone knows, it's not like we're trying to be biased. We would very much love to dunk on people from both political parties. It's just that the right, as of recently, has done a lot more to be dunked on, deserving to be dunked on than the left. It's just, what are we supposed to do with when you have one side that's doing dumb things, but like you get where they're coming from, and the other side that's doing dumb things that threaten to destroy the entire country. It's just, what are you supposed to do?
and what's fundamentally ironic is even though people came together and thought, yeah, we need to ban people that are spurring this kind of shit on from social media. One thing I liked was that we were able to, at the same time, come together and be like, yo, dog, this is kind of scary. Like, corporations having this level of control over public discourse, stop clock is right twice a day. Trump supporters might have actually been right about this one.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I just can't wait to see what happens when all these people that cheered on years and years of executive fiat by the Trump White House, now they're going to sit back, relax, and watch as this new administration maybe declares a national emergency about climate change, and now all fossil fuel cars are going to get banned. Have fun!
It was kind of interesting, but like when I saw Trump being banned from Twitter, I felt like fucking Oppenheimer with the Manhattan Project. I was just like, I've become death, destroyer of speech. Destroyer of speech.
Oh, you certainly destroyed that speech.
Yeah, like completely. It's gone, decimated.
All right, so as you can probably tell from the title, we've had some things happen since we were last on the air. The biggest one being that we now have a new president. Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., believe it or not, is the 46th president of the United States of America. And one of the things I've noticed is that we're recording this on the 24th, so he's been on the job for about 4.5 days now. And think about it. He's been on the job for 4.5 days. He hasn't yet once attacked the media, raged on Twitter, told a blatantly false lie about about something nobody cares about, namely his inauguration crowd size, which is probably the smallest inaugural crowd in history, but for reasons that weren't his fault.
Bro,
And not only that, he did compensate with a bunch of flags on the National Mall. That's symbolism.
Yeah. I actually liked the flags on the mall a lot. Like, whoever thought of that was genius. The flags out there representing all the people that couldn't be there that would have been there otherwise. Because I'd like to think...
Yeah, that was brilliant.
I'd like to think that if we lived in the ideal world where we didn't have COVID or an armed insurrection threatening to overthrow the government, I would like to think that he would have had an inaugural crowd size as big as Barack Obama's, if not slightly larger, because I think that, I mean, he got more votes than anyone else in the history of this country for the office of the presidency. I mean, you don't do that and now I'm sure of course the true believers have something to say about that, because I already saw like the you guys remember the we watched the MAGA cringe videos, like
Yeah.
the what's his name? I think his name is like Terrence Williams. He's like one of the few black guys that actually showed up in those videos.
Oh, was that
Yeah,
the guy I made like fart because of how he leaned?
Yeah, this is the guy that
it wasn't the
keeps-
dude. It was the dude wearing the MAGA hat. It wasn't the dude with the blonde highlights. It was the other dude. I think his name was like Terrence K. Williams or something.
Yeah,
the blonde
one
highlights
of the people
was
I follow
funny.
keeps reblogging him for reasons I don't know why.
Yeah, he was still pushing the election thing because he was like, well, wait a minute. Only like 10 million people watched the inauguration. How did Biden get 80 million votes? It's like, first of all, idiot. The actual number was like 30 million people, I think. I think it was more people watched this inauguration than Trump's inauguration. That's number one. Number two, I don't believe I have to explain this to people. Television views don't equate to votes.
No.
And
All
this,
right.
and this argument
I didn't-
also should apply to to pretty much all of Trump's rallies. And hell, I even saw this. They tried to compare Twitter followers to basically Trump's Twitter followers, how many he had before he got banned versus Biden's. Those do not correlate to actual votes or registered voters.
Remember, half of this rhetoric and shit was coming from people that say, you can't believe everything you read on the internet.
And then believe
want
something they read on the internet.
I want you guys to remember the fundamental realm of hypocrisy did not come from millennials. You guys were hypocrites at times, but not as bad as this. This is like, I'm not going to shoot the dog. Shoots the dog. I didn't shoot the dog.
But so yeah, it was a very, I thought it was a pretty great inaugural ceremony. I was watching it on at work, and I really felt that they did a pretty good job. Like, everyone was so worried about what was going to happen, and thankfully it all went off without a hitch. I mean, yes, it's definitely going to look back, and it's going to be very much a period of the times with no one there because of both the COVID pandemic and the, security measures being taken place with the National Guard deployed.
I want to point several things out here. The fact that a person tried to measure support for a president by TV views alone definitely shows there are still too many people in this country that do not understand where we're at in modern times. Like,
Yeah, and
for one, we have fiber wire capability now. We have 5G, which is accessible on iPhone 12s and above. Like, we're years ahead of when the television was first conceived. We're years ahead of radio at this point. What? Do people just think the world stood still?
Something, I will bring this up, Sharp. One of the things I've noticed, because it's been really fascinating watching the response from the left and the right since the inauguration, particularly the right in particular, because half the people on like the QAnon people, half of them are going, holy fuck, we got duped. And the other half are like going full on sovereign citizen, which is kind of frightening.
Oh boy,
one
the kind of people who are trying to get their way out of a
shit-
ticket and like those hilarious traffic stops.
When this shit was so fucking insane, you managed to split QAnon down the middle. Like, how?
Well, I mean, it's even better.
How? Wait,
Q himself gave up.
If the fucking Dawn Reddit was around, would that shit be split in half too? Like, what?
But no, Sharp, it gets even better. Q himself gave up. The guy...
Q gave up.
Yeah, Q gave up because the fellow who is... he's like the former admin of 8chan. I forget his name right now. I can't really think of his name, but he's like the admin of 8chan, and everyone believes that he's probably Q himself. He actually posted a message in the Telegram chat which I'm trying to find right now because I posted in a Discord server. I think I posted in our thing as well a few days ago, but I did post in a couple of Discord servers. But basically, he literally put out a message in the Q Telegram chat saying, QAnon was really just the friends that we made along the way. Like, I'm not even joking. It's like, oh yeah, here it is. Okay, here it is. So this is from Ron Watkins, the former 8 man who helped keep QAnon afloat for years and is probably Q himself. He posted the following message to one of the Telegram groups. We gave it our all. Now we need to keep our chins up and go back to our lives as best as we're able. We have a new president sworn in, and it is our responsibility as citizens to respect the Constitution regardless of whether or not we agree with the specifics or details regarding officials who are sworn in. As we enter into the next administration, please remember all the friends and happy memories we made together over the past few years. I'll have more to say in a few days regarding a new project I'm currently fleshing out. God bless.
Wow. Right.
Friends and happy memories. Does that include the happy memory of getting 5 people killed when you stormed the Capitol building, you dickhead?
Does that include the happy memory of betraying everything, standing up for the police and Blue Lives Matter and all that shit, right? Like,
well,
does that include that?
They thought it would be Blue Lives Matter would have been protecting them because they're white. Well, a lot of them are white. And and the cops always go after black people for unknown reasons. But we just found that out. Cops are abusive of their power no matter who is in the fucking crosshairs.
You saw that thing I shared recently, right? About how differently the media treats riots over the loss of a sports game versus riots over political strife.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, they treat those things worlds apart. I want to point out, they downplay riots over a stupid fucking sports game and condemn riots over economic situations and crisis people are facing.
Not even riots, dude. That little tidbit was in the height of the Black Lives Matter protests. And most of them are usually... It'll last for a while.
You're trying to You're trying to tell me that hypocrisy was literally happening back to back, and we never questioned it.
Mm-hmm. We questioned a lot of it, but unfortunately, the media is kind of in on the racist game as well, as you've noticed. A lot of the times, Black Lives Matter protests that escalate out of control because cops decided to step in and be total dickheads. It turns into a riot, and they condemn this shit. But let's say Vancouver, their hockey team made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. They're joyous. They're so fucking drunk and crazy that they decided to flip over cars, loot businesses. This actually happened, I believe. Hockey game riot.
So
it happened when they lost.
They destroy their
it happens regardless if if their favorite sports team lost or it happened. All the cops do is just standing around there making sure that everything's okay. And then sometimes it escalates and the police get violent. But it's just a party gone awry and shit like that.
I'm taking the black pill, right? Why aren't we shooting these people for acting that stupid?
That probably would not paint us in a better light than they are.
We're always advocating people do that to protesters. But then people are doing that shit literally over a fucking game.
Be it winning or losing.
Winning or losing. So there's no preventing it.
I found that, sports hooliganism, which is not an American thing. It's very much not strictly related to an American thing. It's kind of an international thing. It does seem to have there is an exception, a double standard when it comes to sports hooliganism versus
political strife,
political violence or actual social unrest. Because in sports hooliganism, at the end of the day, it's about a game. And it's okay, let them go, have their emotions. And everyone and to their credit, police departments in recent years have told people, listen, if you get excited and stuff like that, just don't do anything stupid because we're excited too and we don't want to have to come out and ruin the party. And for the most part, people understand that. Okay, every so often, things may get out of control and a window will be broken or a car will be torched or a dumpster will be turned over, but it's far less what you would see at say the Rodney King riots. So a ride over a sporting event doesn't get as much of a police response because at the end of the day, everyone knows that this is just about something that ultimately is trivial and stupid, and these people will feel bad about it later. It's like, or at the very least, it's one of those things you kind of look back on and laugh. It's like, even if property damage does happen, it's like, okay, well, whatever. It's just, it's one of those things. It's like,
times.
it's like you have the wild party at your house and they knock over the expensive laugh. I mean, in the moment it sucks, but 20 years from now you look back at it and it's like, well, that was some fun times. Yeah. On the other hand, when it's something regarding like social unrest, there are deeper factors at play here. This is something of importance. This is something that actually matters. And in the case of what we saw at the Capitol building, this is it could be a case of, it could range from people trying to express the desire of we don't want to be murdered to people trying to overthrow a sitting government. That's where there's actual stakes on the line. And I think emotions do get high as well there because...
Helios, you kind of made my point for me. Mm-hmm. Is the whole idea that people are doing riots and stuff over things that matter, and the one we don't call out is the one where people are doing that kind of shit over things that don't matter. Mm-hmm. Like, that's my point.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Like nobody. Whenever it's sure, every so often there's it develops into tragedy. Well, like I remember this one particular incident, a couple of incidents of sports hooliganism in the United Kingdom that kind of devolved out of control. And in that particular case, though, it's more of an instance of, okay, how did these things go wrong? But the blame is almost never with the people who actually did the rioting. It's more with the organizations that set things up so that logistically it led to the situation.
Unless it was an anti-fascist protest in which you have no leadership to
you would actually be surprised how often sporting events have been used as a site for political protest. That actually does happen, especially over in countries like Europe or continents like Europe. In fact, during
that's actually kind of smart. If political activists took advantage of sporting riots, people wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a riot that takes place of political strife while it's mixed in with people that are just happy or mad that they won or lost a sports game.
Fact, during the 2018 World Cup final, which was held in Russia, during the final match, some people from the stands got onto the field and started streaking. And you might think about it, oh, hey, look at that, people streaking on the field, oh, it's so funny. But what they were actually doing is they were protesting Putin. They were explicitly calling out Putin for his human rights abuses and his authoritarian government. As a result, those protesters were rounded up, and I believe they have been shipped off to a work camp in Siberia or something like that.
Cool, just for stripping naked on a sports field. Cool.
Yeah, well, and not for stripping naked on a sports field, but for protesting Putin.
Questioning the mighty leader, Putin himself.
Yeah, I want to point out, remember, Russia's a democracy, ladies and gentlemen. In
theory, yeah.
Anybody that says that needs to be shipped off to Siberia themselves.
Mm-hmm. Well, we like negative 57-degree weather.
Yeah, hope you like it.
But yeah, to get back to the inauguration, you had some people. Obviously, you had members of both houses of Congress there. Nancy Pelosi looked considerably happy to be there, whereas Mitch McConnell looked like he'd rather be anywhere else in that moment. I will say that I believe it was Roy Blunt, Republican senator from Missouri. He gave a little speech during the Gibbs presentation about both houses of Congress. He talked about their functions, which was interpreted to be as kind of like a subtle troll job of the GOP, up to and including his fellow Senator Josh Hawley. We all remember Josh Hawley. But yeah, I mean, they had a lot of people there. They had W was there, Clinton was there, Obama was there. I can tell you who wasn't there, though. Trump wasn't there. Trump basically slinked out of the White House at 8 o'clock in the morning and just got on Marine One and got on Air Force One and just got the hell out of there to Mar-a-Lago, or as Michael Cohen calls it, Magastan. and he got out of there. And this is, I want to emphasize that this is very, very much a break in tradition when it comes to the inauguration. See, what the president is supposed to do, and what pretty much every president before Trump did, is the new president arrives at the White House, and the outgoing president is there. They greet them at the door, and they show them around the residence. It's like, this is where you're going to be living, and this is where you'll be staying, and so on and so forth. And then they ride down Pennsylvania Avenue together in the presidential limousine to, again, to signify the passing of the torch, if you will, the transfer of power. And then the inauguration proceeds for the new president, and that's when the old president takes their leave to go do whatever it is they want to do. Trump did none of that. And in fact, Trump actually fired all of the White House staff as he left, which meant that when the Bidens did arrive at the White House, there was nobody there to open the door for them. They had to open the door themselves.
Bro,
and it's like, you might think like, yeah, and it's like, that's not a big deal. It just shows you how petty this guy was, how petty Trump was.
No,
is that
I don't care what people think Trump is. That's fucking childish.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even Obama was there to kind of greet Trump and show him around the White House on Inauguration Day because Obama's an adult. But the interesting thing is that a couple of people pointed this out, is that, a lot of people are like, oh, well, you're trying to memory hold Trump now. You're trying to make it so that he never existed. Trump kind of memory hold himself by not being at the inauguration. To the point where Mike Pence has to go out there and kind of stand in for him.
Yeah, like if people had tried to erase Trump and he'd been at the inauguration, it would have been undeniable that he'd had some involvement with our politics. We wouldn't have been able to cover him up. And hopefully, I genuinely hope we don't try to.
We absolutely shouldn't. I mean, I know that the GOP would love to do it. I mean, right now, a lot of them are already pivoting to trying to memory hole the last 4 years and pretend it never happened.
Another reason to burn that fucking party to the ground, by the way, ladies and gentlemen.
Another reason to convict Trump, by the way, when we start the impeachment on February 8th.
Because if they never have political power again, they can't erase the precious God Emperor.
That's going to be difficult to try to convict him. There's now seeds of doubt planted, and some people are like,
yeah, I mean, obviously it is going to be tough to get an actual conviction here, because the GOP, they never wanted to hold him accountable. They still don't want to hold him accountable because he's now the face of their party, for better or worse. I mean, and what we are about to see is a civil war between the Trump side of the GOP and the other side of the GOP that may not necessarily want to get along with the Democrats, but they do want to kind of wind the clock back and recognize that, okay, we are going way the hell off the rails here. We got to get back to some kind of center-right party. Otherwise, come 2022, we're not going to be able to elect anybody outside of the Mason-Dixie line and bumfuck Montana.
Yeah, here's the problem. They lost the House, they lost the Senate, they lost the White House. And
Trump is the first president, by the way, since
even the SCOTUSes they thought would protect conservative interests weren't as fucking nutty as they were. Nothing's working out for the GOP. They kind of fucked themselves clean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Trump, by the way, is the first president since Woodrow Wilson to cause his party to lose the presidency, the House, and the Senate in just one term. So, good job there.
Love how we tried to politicize the courts and it didn't work. That was the best part, right? It was when fucking Trump thought Kavanaugh and these other Supreme Court justices would go in favor of him when he claimed there was election fraud, and the most catharsis moment was when the entire Supreme Court was just like,
no, dude, we're not touching it.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I do know that was certainly so the pick of Gorsuch was Gorsuch was a pure vanilla pick, okay? Because Trump knew, even Trump was smart enough to recognize that if he went right in with like the hardliners with the first pick, then people were going to lose their shit. So he picks a guy that, for the most part, he's down the middle, okay? He's not going to go too far to the right, too far to the left. And for the most part, Gorsuch has been pretty moderate. Kavanaugh was the first of, like, the true believers that he put on there. And same with Amy Coney Barrett. And I think
really,
Trump's...
Really, it seems like Coney Barrett and Kavanaugh weren't as much true believers as people thought they were.
The jury's still out on Barrett, but Kavanaugh has been considerably more moderate than even I was expecting. So
I was surprised the moment he cited the stare decisis in overturning Roe v. Wade, flat out saying, "I'm not going to do it. It's decided."
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sure they'll try to convince him otherwise, but it's like, we're out. Like, just good luck with that. Just good luck.
Too late. Yeah,
but I do believe that Trump and the true believers among his supporters, they did believe, albeit delusionally, that just because Trump picked them, that they would, if things got out of control, they would hand the election to him. And it's like, yeah, that's not how this works. Ultimately, you have to do your job.
Did he forget about Sotomayor? Did he forget about like the other justices that have been there through 3 past administrations?
Well, we've talked about this. We've talked about this before. Is that the Trump right looks at the GOP with a very, very transactional nature, and like we think that, okay, it's kind of like, you've all seen The Godfather, right? You've all seen The Godfather, and the opening thing is like, where Don Corleone says to the guy, you come to me on the day of my daughter's wedding, ask me for a favor. I will grant you that favor, but one day, and that day may never come, I'm going to ask you to do something for me, and you have to do it. That's kind of how they approached pretty much everyone in the Republican Party, especially the people like Brian Kemp, who Trump endorsed. I mean, that was kind of Trump's whole beef with him, which is like, listen, I endorsed you. I got you elected the governor of Georgia, so why aren't you helping me steal this election here, Brian, after all that I did for you? And Brian's like, because, sir, it's illegal, and I'm trying to do my job here as governor, so fuck you.
Also, I'm not really in favor of the idea of people killing me over this one.
Yeah, that too, yeah. But,
there would have been bullets and heads if there were senators that decided to do that. It would have been beyond peaceful protest at that point.
Oh, yeah, I mean, and again, I want to everyone that's trying to, like, memory hole the insurrection as being, a riot that got out of hand, they absolutely had every intention to kill people that day.
Yep. In fact, the past week, one was convicted because he was planning to seriously assassinate AOC.
Yeah, in fact, it genuinely seems like the primary thing that got some true believers off the fucking wagon, was that Capitol raid.
Mm-hmm.
And I will never forget Mitt Romney just going, "This is what fucking happens."
Yeah, this is what you got. Just yelling at Ted Cruz. This is what you got. Poor fucking Ted Cruz.
And then
who, by the way,
look at Cruz still acting like a bitch. Like
he has been in a Twitter war with Seth Rogen for the last 3 days now.
Ted is fucking pathetic at this point. Like,
yeah,
I never thought a sniveling little shit could be worse than a sniveling little shit. But Ted needs to be fucking Ted dead. I don't fucking know.
I wish he could just resign right now, go to Wyoming or Colorado, go have a ranch, and just be away from social media, TV cameras, people in general, and we don't have to deal with him.
Maybe this already exists as a point of rhetoric, but Drop Dead Ted actually sounds like a pretty good one.
Drop Dead Ted.
Yeah, Drop Dead Ted. Drop Dead Ted.
Well, look, here's the situation, okay? So Ted Cruz's political future in the event of a Trump loss was already pretty grim, because I've said in this program before, it's an open secret on the Hill that absolutely nobody really likes Ted Cruz. The left or the right, nobody likes Ted Cruz. I said before that if the vote,
a jackass.
Yeah. I said before that if the vote came down between removing Ted Cruz from office or feeding him to a pack of wild wolves, they absolutely would throw him to the wolves.
Oh, they watch it and film it too as his limbs are being like ripped off and shit. They would get footage of that shit.
Actually, wait, no. That would be an insult to the wolves. They'll have to eat Ted Cruz.
God damn. You know what? You right, Death Scout. You right.
Thank you, Death Scout.
Rene boy.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, Ted's political future was already looking pretty grim after Trump lost, because you remember that he only beat out Beto O'Rourke by the skin of his fucking teeth in Texas, of all places. So, but now, because he was one of the ringleaders behind the Stop the Steal charade, that he actually kicked Josh Hawley, he kind of usurped that from Josh Hawley as kind of the face of that thing. Now he's just hoping that they don't decide to vote the 14th Amendment and just throw him out of the Senate right now, which they absolutely should, mind you, because we talked about this in the last program. The 14th Amendment explicitly states that anyone who aids or engages with an insurrection against the United States government cannot hold office. It's right there in the Constitution.
I just want to reach across the aisle here. It's like, Texas, please. You don't want Beto O'Rourke. I don't want Beto O'Rourke. Stop this.
Yeah, Beto, he needs to learn how to read the room a little better before he comes back. We'll see what he does in 22. I'm sure he'll be trying again.
Beto was a jackass.
Yeah.
In the most pro-fucking gun state in the union. How out of touch can you get?
Yeah, like I said, read the room, Beto. Read the fucking room.
It's not even just reading the room. It's like he fucking lobotomized himself before he stood on the damn stage. The most pro-gun state in the fucking union. Was he just saying, I'm ready to retire?
But, yeah, so the whole point is that in regards to impeachment, you only need a simple majority vote to actually ban someone to remove from office. Now, granted, the simple majority vote comes with the caveat that it needs to come after a conviction. Like, you can't just say, okay, we're not going to convict the guy, but we're going to bar him from moving in office. Now, granted, Trump's already, or we're not going to bar him from running for office again. Now, granted, Trump's already out of office, so I don't know if they'll just change the rules there. I don't know if McConnell's going to be like, yeah, listen, we're going to switch things up here so that we're just going to skip the conviction vote because it's already gone and just go to the vote where we bar him from running for office again. Because that's a simple majority vote. Actually, it wouldn't be McConnell, it would be Schumer now, because as of right now, the Democrats have the majority because both Ossoff and Warnock have been sworn in. So Schumer might just say, you know what, we're not going to have the conviction vote. We're just going to have the vote to remove him from office. And because that's a simple majority vote, you just need everyone to vote per their party ticket and Kamala to cast the deciding 51st vote. And so in that regard, you don't even need Republican defectors like Mitt Romney or Susan Collins or Lisa Murkowski.
That will be kind of bittersweet because, like, on one end, it's like he can never run for office again. But on the other end, it's like there really is no justice for everything he did after that.
Well, that's... like I've talked to people, it's like, we got to do this to... in order to set a precedent, there has to be consequences for what happened. You have to tell future presidents that, no, you can't lead an insurrection against the United States because you lost an election. You can't do that. And that's to kind of bring it back to the actual inauguration. Biden's inaugural address. Chris Wallace, our guy Chris Wallace on Fox, called it the best inaugural address he's ever heard. And he's been covering the inauguration since Kennedy. I don't know if I'd go that far, but it was certainly one of the best. And it met the man and it met the moment, okay? Because Trump's inaugural address in 2017, it's what I think a lot of Americans wanted to hear, whether they're on the left or the right. They wanted to hear that the nation's in decline, or that the elites are assholes, or that there's this group of people that's preventing us from reaching our prosperity, preventing us from making America great again, okay? I think there are people on both sides that wanted to hear that. If you're on the right, it's because it validated your choice for Trump. And if you're on the left, it validated your prejudices about the Republicans being a bunch of evil assholes.
Yeah.
This speech, however, by Biden, it's what America needed to hear. It's what they needed to hear.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Because, go ahead, Ren.
Yeah. Okay. So, and usually the left, they don't, not wanting to, not wanting to make America great again. It's more just make America great.
Yeah.
It's because the whole usually the left perspective is like America was bad before, we got to make it good.
And then make America great again. Yeah, but like
MAGA.
Well, for one, I think the thing I hate the most was MAGA.
Well, wait. Make America great again. Was that the line that Mike Pence tried a couple of times?
Yes, he tried
the fucking
MAGA.
vice president. MAGA. Yeah, MAGA.
MAGA.
Actually, that's pretty accurate. That's the sound a Trump supporter makes when they die from COVID.
No. That if you want to be accurate, that's MAGA.
Yeah, there you go, Mac.
Anyway.
What I hate the most, though, was I'm pretty sure Helios knows this since he's like grounded in Republican Party history. That slogan's not originally Trump's.
Nope. It's Reagan actually came up with it first.
You know what I hate? They bastardized Reagan as a result of all this. We can never use Reagan's slogan again.
I remember actually saying that to some people, and they were, and they did not believe me.
Helios, I'd hate to say it, but the second that man used MAGA, he essentially signed the death knell of the party of Reagan.
He swastika'd it.
He took.
Yep, he did.
He
swastika'd it,
and he swastika'd it. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, because it's like the swastika used to be like a positive Norse symbol, a positive
Hindu.
Germanic pagan symbol.
Hindu, I believe.
No, it's not.
It was both.
That's a
Manji.
different symbol that's left facing.
Yeah, the swastika.
The swastika was always right facing. It's just that the swastika was always right facing. It's just that Hitler turned it to the side, made it his symbol.
By the way, are we ever going to talk about the fact that unlike Trump, Hitler knew half the shit he was saying was bullshit?
And knew when to resign.
That is. I mean, that's why I've always said it's unfair to compare Trump to Hitler, because for one thing, Hitler was a better public speaker.
Yes.
Like, yeah, for one, and also Hitler was actually angry when Himmler started the Nazi Historian Society, and he said, and I quote, "The one thing Himmler will find is a bunch of stone axes and wreaths. Nothing of significant value of the Aryan race."
Yeah.
Like,
but yeah, so you compare like the inauguration address of Donald Trump, where he talks about American carnage and describes an America that's more akin to like the Fallout version of America, a speech that's so bizarre that at the end of it, W reportedly said, "Yeah, that was some weird shit." And then you compare it to Biden's speech, which is he says things like, this is America's day. This is democracy's day. Today we celebrate the triumph not of a candidate, but of a cause. The cause of democracy. The will of the people has been heard, and the will of the people has been heeded. Democracy is fragile, and at this hour, my friends, democracy has prevailed. I mean, I will confess to you all, I got a little misty-eyed watching that speech. And Sharp, you were watching it too. You had a particularly strong reaction to it as well, I believe, as you described in a Discord chat.
yeah, let's see if I can actually find my exact words from that, right?
I think you were like, you felt like we had just won a war or something like that.
Yeah, like I'd actually commented on several things. I think I also commented on Ms. Lopez herself.
Oh,
yep.
I just found something out from looking something up.
Yeah.
What's up?
You see, there are multiple religions that use this symbol. Of course, the symbol that I was talking about before.
Okay.
The right-facing one is called the swastika. The left-facing one within English is apparently within the European context is called the Salwastika.
All right.
Fascinating.
All right, so here's what I said, and I can actually read the back and forth between Helios and myself, because I was off enjoying my lunch while this inauguration was taking place, and I quoted and I said, "This is the best damn lunch I've ever had." Watching the inauguration right now while I enjoy my lunch, and goddamn, this is the best lunch I've ever had. This has to be the most ethically and culturally diverse inauguration I've ever seen, and I don't even think Obama's inauguration was this diverse.
I unfortunately
Kamala
slept
Harris
through
has been
that.
sworn in as vice president, Helios said. Not gonna lie, ladies and gents, and non-binary, there were others. There are others. I think I meant to say that, but I was using like a speech to text.
Yeah, text speech. Yeah.
This shit feels like the credits rolling for an epic story. Feels like we won a fucking war. How many people are going to comment on that single baby crying before Joe Biden is sworn in? There was like one baby that cried before his speech, and I was just like wondering, were MAGA types gonna latch onto that? I don't know if they ever did.
They didn't latch onto it. I'll tell you what they did. Like I said, it was really interesting watching things go down on the various Q channels because they were all thinking like, okay, so the National Guard is there to take over things. So Biden's going to go up to the podium and they're going to rush the stage and arrest him. And then, of course, things kept going and nothing happened. And then some of them started getting desperate, like, come on, arrest somebody. How hard is it to go up there and arrest them? And then it was all over with and Biden was sworn in. And that's when the split happened. Like, half of them were like, you know what? This was a whole big fucking scam. We got played. And the other half, okay, so how many of you have heard of the John Woo movie Face Off?
I haven't, actually.
So, it is a incredible movie. It's a movie that stars noted thespians Nicolas Cage and John Travolta. And the idea is that Cage is this terrorist and Travolta is this FBI agent. And so they capture Nicolas Cage's character and they want to get undercover to find like where this bomby planet is or something like that. So what they do, and I swear to God, I'm not making this up, they put the two characters through a radical medical procedure that swaps John Travolta's face with Nicolas Cage's face. And so now Travolta's characters, so the whole movie is basically John Travolta playing Nicolas Cage and Nicolas Cage playing John Travolta.
They're actually convinced that Donald Trump right now is Biden and Biden
yes,
is Donald Trump.
The line of the Sovsit Q branch, if you will, is not only that this procedure is actually real, but that Donald Trump and Joe Biden have actually switched bodies, and that's actually Donald Trump disguised as Joe Biden.
Some MAGA types that had to stand up and go, dude, you are batshit insane.
Okay. Oh my God. Well, okay. Now I'm just thinking. All I'm thinking now is just don't listen to him. I'm Joe Biden.
Bro, you gotta realize, like, in that moment, there were just.
And
so
all
many
I'm thinking
Trump
now
supporters.
is like an episode of my fictitious anime, Holy Night do Naruto.
Yeah.
Where they have switched
Holy Knight
souls.
Naruto defeated Bo Jiden by taking his face.
No, he switched his soul with Bo Jiden, and now he is holy warrior Bo Jiden.
Holy Knight Naruto was never tied to this mortal form of Donald Trump. Holy Knight Naruto lives on inside all of us.
それはBo Jidenではない。俺はBo Jiden.
You know what? I agree with that headcanon. Congratulations, Q and Honors. You saved Holy Knight Naruto.
I am left speechless about how this is fucking ridiculous now.
Yeah, so, I mean, so you can all see, now we can all, the great thing about this is that we can all look back and laugh at this now because we live in the correct timeline where the right person ultimately won the election. So now we can just kind of hopefully put all this into the rearview mirror, at least until February 8th, where we're going to have to dig it back up again, albeit however briefly. But, I mean, again, it's just, you look at the incredible contrast between these administrations is that Joe Biden gets in there. Donald Trump does his speech and spends the next week lying about his inaugural crowd size, which he assumed basically that A, we gave a shit about it, and B, that we were stupid enough to believe him that it was the biggest ever, when obviously it wasn't. Biden gets sworn in, and he does the ceremonial things. He does the speech, the address. He goes to Arlington with the former presidents and lays a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. Once again, Donald Trump notably absent, as he's memory holing himself out of this. And then he goes to the White House, and then he just gets right to work. In the days he's been in office, he's already signed a bunch of executive orders, which, again, they're EOs, but at the very least, they're committed. It shows they're committed to undoing some of the worst excesses of the Trump presidency. He's put us back in the WHO. He says we're going to rejoin the Paris Accords, and predictably, some people like Ted Cruz have already forgotten that Paris just means it was signed in Paris, not that Joe cares more about the people of Paris than the people of Pittsburgh.
I want to point out that this was an American change. This was done, together. Because the big thing here is Joe Biden was only able to get these things done in a day because he was informed of everything that got fucked. Because people chose to work with him to give him all the information he needed to sign the necessary executive orders.
Yeah, and when it came to the pandemic, they got there and they found that, surprise, surprise, there absolutely was no plan to deal with things like the rolling out of the vaccine.
It's your fault.
There was none.
I pretty much was just getting some money through my shell companies. Have fun there, Sleepy Joe.
I just want to imagine how that conversation might have gone with Joe Biden. Kamala, there's nothing here. What are we supposed to do?
What are we supposed to do? We gotta get the thing there. We gotta get a vaccine plan out there.
You're doing good, Joe. You're doing good. Just keep.
We gotta.
Doing good. Yeah. Interestingly enough, there was actually something that kind of got underreported from the inauguration day is when Joe Biden swore in his staff members, did it so virtually, a virtual swearing in of a lot of the staff members. And these a lot of the lower level guys that work around in the West Wing of the White House, they help prepare all the documents and things like that. He said, listen, you're going to treat each other with respect, and I will fire you on the spot if you start mouthing off about people, okay? So Biden shows right away that we're not doing it like Trump did. We're not creating this, very swampy work environment where everyone's kind of trying to backstab each other and everyone's trying to make power plays for the top. It's no, we're trying to save the country. We're going to be a team here. This whole personal motivation, personal ambition, personal benefit thing, it's not flying here, okay? You treat each other with respect, you work together, or you're gone.
I would like it if he said, if you have a problem with me, tell it to my face. You can trust that if it's not bad enough, I'm not going to fire you.
Yeah. Seriously, I think it's the Trump campaign tried so hard to paint Biden as weak and feeble, and it backfired so spectacularly that he kind of looks like a tough guy now by default. Joe Biden went from being the drunken uncle that you kind of tolerated back during Obama to now looking like a legitimate tough guy, because Trump just lowered the bar so much when it came to Joe Biden, we can't get out of the basement, he can't put a speech together, that now when Joe Biden challenges a guy at challenges a heckler at a rally to a push-up contest, it's this dude's fucking hardcore. So,
yeah. Or when the Lincoln Project assisted by going, Biden ran up that fucking ramp.
Yeah, that too. So yeah, congratulations, Donald. You turned Joe Biden into the second coming of Teddy Roosevelt, at the very least.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully nobody tries to fucking assassinate him.
Perception is...
Yeah, well, remember, Teddy Roosevelt... Yeah, that's my favorite Teddy Roosevelt story. He gets shot on the way to the speech, and he goes and gives the fucking speech anyway. And he's like, it'll take more than a bullet to bring down a bull moose.
Yeah, you actually brought this up. He showed the book with the bullet hole in it and his speech with the bullet hole.
Yeah, the blooded bullet hole. Yeah. But so Biden is already one of the things that he said in the lead up to the inauguration in regards to the vaccine rollout, he said that he wanted 100 million vaccines in the arms of Americans in his first 100 days in office. And I was like, okay, Joe, well, we'll see how that goes. Well, that would obviously mean you would need an average of 1 million vaccines a day across the country. We're already at that number. We are actually averaging right now 1 million vaccines a day in America. So the response is, okay, let's see if we get to 2 million. Let's see if we can get it to 5 million a day. And let's see if we can. And he is invoking the Defense Production Act, something which Trump refused to do, bizarrely, to help with the vaccine production and distribution. So there is actually a plan in place now to deal with the vaccine. Now, we're still probably a few months away from things getting back to what some things that resembled how things were in the quote-unquote before times. Like my personal goal right now is that by May 1st, the economy is already starting to reopen, okay? Not January, not February, not March, not even April, May. That's kind of when I am optimistic that things are going to be on the track back to relative normalcy. So, any earlier than that is a fucking win in my book.
Yeah, so then what are you going to do if it's earlier? Are you actually going to ask for more ambitious things or what?
Well, like I said, if it's earlier, then I don't think I'd ask for anything to be more ambitious. I'm not going to be like Dave Rubin and be like...
You got to set the goalpost higher, though, if they accomplish the goal way earlier, because it means this administration is made of more than what you think it is.
Uh-huh.
So you've got to have higher standards for them and expectations.
Well... So, yeah, I'm not going to be like Dave Rubin and be like, let's get people back to watching sports again. I would just say that things that I would expect to see happen later, I would expect to see happen sooner. Like, let's say by my May timeline, I would expect to see, sports stadiums at 50% capacity by mid-June. Okay? If, let's say, by April 1st... we reach my goal of kind of getting a herd immunity. Let's say that herd immunity would be my criteria for May 1st. If we get there by April 1st, then that would just be, okay, I want to see sports at stadiums at 50% capacity by the middle of May.
By the way, there actually are a few things and procedures I want to keep due to this pandemic because I think it was like a learning experience for all of us. For one, disinfection and cleansing of work environments, mandatory. Do not go back to us not doing that. That was part of the problem here.
Yeah, it's like I've said to people many times. If people just use a little bit more hand sanitizer, we wouldn't be in this mess.
Yeah, and so after the fact, what are we going to do? Use a little more hand sanitizer, hopefully. Wash our fucking hands.
Yeah, I'm not saying that, we got to... that everyone has to keep wearing masks. Hopefully we don't have to do that far, but hand sanitizers, washing hands and stuff like that, that would definitely be helpful.
Well, yeah,
I think
we don't have to do masks anymore. Wash your hands before eating. That's things we should have known how to do all along. Yeah. Those just need to be ingrained in our culture now. That should be the learning experience.
It's sadly just been neglected and thrown to the side, really, when you think of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think that we need to continue, maybe not with, we should probably look at continuing remote working from home because, like I said, I think one of the big things that people are starting to realize in this pandemic is this might ultimately lead to the end of the idea that you have to work in a big office building.
For one, this pandemic did speed up automation of the various jobs we were talking about a few years ago. There have been more automated checkout kiosks. Mm-hmm. There have been more automated, the self-scan systems that stores have. They made more of those.
The people that shop for you and then bring the stuff to the door, that's certainly taken off. That's one of the little pop-up industries that I think will get replaced when drones come online en masse. But
I will say one thing I did like was Uber Eats and DoorDash getting a huge boost. Mm-hmm, I think those are useful. Very.
Yeah, they're very useful. But yeah, look, when it comes to remote schools, we could have a conversation about that. People are going to say there's a psychological benefit to putting kids in schools and giving them social interaction. I certainly agree, but I still think you can integrate it. Let's say if you want to have kids in a classroom, okay, fine, but imagine, if you will, a future where you have one group of kids in a classroom in Detroit and another group of kids in Chicago, and they're being taught the same lessons by the same teacher, okay? And they can communicate with each other, they can interact with each other. I think that's something that really we could look at definitely being a thing.
I think, like, in standard, right? I think one way we actually could have combated the pandemic, which wouldn't have been too detrimental to education, was definitely getting the parents involved in this one, in which whether parents decided they wanted their kids to go back on into the school, or whether they wanted them on Zoom meetings to keep them safe. And and I think there would have been enough split between the parents to meet the social distancing requirement, and potentially also wouldn't have disrupted the classrooms as much.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we saw what happened earlier in the pandemic. When you recall the Karen that got herself arrested when she tried to break the quarantine on the playground equipment and got hauled off by the cops. So that's one of the things that did unfortunately happen by getting the parents involved. But I see where you're going with that, though. I do believe that giving parents that option.
Yeah, that's not
not
a parent. That's a changeling that replaced a kid's mother. We really need to inform the people of this crisis.
Yeah, the pod people from Invasion people from Invasion of the Body Snatchers have landed, and now they're screwing everything up.
Yeah, they look at an employee and they go,
yeah.
Well, I can tell you right now is that I'm looking at a CNN article here, and Biden's got more EOs planned for the coming week. And so I mentioned before that the Senate trial for Trump's impeachment is not going to start until February 8th. What this tells me is that they want to get Biden's confirmations done, or at least they're going to try to get Biden's confirmations done. That depends ultimately, of course, on how much McConnell and the GOP are willing to go along with it and play fuck around. He's already gotten a couple of his cabinet members staffed. Secretary of Defense was confirmed. Director of, I believe, Health and Human Services confirmed as well. The Sedition Caucus predictably voted no on his confirmations so far. That, of course, being Ted Cruz, Tommy Tuberville, Josh Hawley, and the other seditionists on the Republican side of the Senate. Rest Senate voted yes. Those assholes voted no, so you make of that what you will. But, so Biden's already taken over 30 executive actions in his first 3 days. Some of those actions included the halting of construction on the Great Wall of Ignorance on the southern border, and ending the Muslim travel ban, and so on and so forth. So here's what they're looking at for this week. This is the week starting on the 25th. Now, one of the things I actually like about what this administration is doing right now is that it looks like they're trying to focus for now on one issue a day. So, like, okay, so today we're going to work on this issue, tomorrow we're going to work on the next issue, and so on and so forth. It helps keeps things a lot more focused and gives Americans a better idea of what's going on.
So far, Biden hasn't taken a golf break.
Yeah, that too. So, I don't even know if Biden plays golf, to be quite honest with you. I don't know what he does. I know he has dogs. I'm sure he plays with the dogs.
I know he has, like, and this one was a major issue, and I guess it got cleared up. He has a stationary bike, right? Some people...
Oh, yeah, he fell off the bike.
A stationary bike. He has one. And one of the major Fox scandals they try to make out of this is the fact that he has this bike. And what I understood when somebody explained to me is that they were worried that this particular bike, because it connects to the Wi-Fi, that it is easy to hack.
Oh, please.
Yeah,
Oh, come on. That's the Fox. That's
Tell me what they're going to do to his stationary bike.
Why would you want to hack an exercise bike? That's
also
that's the fucking Fox agitprop already.
Also,
I mean, first of all,
also they could only hack the tablet on the bike that allows him to watch stuff.
That's one of the main concerns.
So what would they do? Just change his thing to porn? Like,
And you're saying this, by the way.
That's
Let's not
pornography
forget that
right
Trump's.
there. No, that's bad.
Let's not forget that Trump spent 4 years with a fucking unsecured iPhone that was hacked by both the Russians and the Chinese and compromised by them both. And now they're freaking out over the security of a stationary bike.
That's because,
I'm gonna put this image in your head, right? 70-year-old using a stationary bike, right? So that's Biden. So they hack into his tablet, they make it play pornography. Man gets an erection at the age of 70.
He calls up. He calls over. Jill's like, Jill, I can still get it up. We're good.
I can still get it up. Holy shit! I didn't know I could. Whoa.
No malarkey, Jill. No malarkey. I can get it up.
No malarkey. I can get it up. Oh.
He just screams to the heavens, "Thank you, 4chan."
Thank you.
Thank you, 4chan. I don't have to ban you after. We don't have to shut you down after all.
Yeah.
This just in: the president will not ban QAnons from the internet because they gave him an erection. Warning.
Oh, Lord have mercy on us all.
But
All right.
But yeah, Fox News is already back to the typical right-wing agitprop. Like, I think Hannity tried to refer to Joe as like the weak, the feeble, the compromised Joe Biden. It's like he's not even president for a minute, and they're already going, "Oh my God, he's gonna bring back full communism." It's like,
by the way,
What's your idea of full communism? Because
How are
if some of the
those
stuff that he
stank-ass-
already planned is communism, I don't want to know what is actual communism.
how are those stank-ass ratings of theirs doing, by the way?
Not too good. I think they're still behind CNN. In a related story, Tucker was back on the UFOs the other night.
At least for the upside, Trump wasn't around long enough to switch the American populace to watching One America News.
Yeah, thank God for that. Well, he'll try. I'm sure he'll try to buy it out and make it Trump TV.
Trump
which,
TV, the real
Yeah, another
news.
grift. Why
Trump
not?
TV will
Anyway,
have
so
Trump TV broadcasting
ads-
Holy Night to Naruto.
All of the ads on his television network are just him.
oh,
I
absolutely.
want to
Yeah.
show you Trump quality steaks. That fucking old one. This is
All I'm
quality
thinking now-
steak.
All I'm thinking now is like those medicine ads. It's just like, "Hi, I'm Donald Trump. I seem to succumb to reason a bit too often, so I take Magator."
It's Alex Jones here supporting the great President Donald Trump. I'm here to sell you a new supplement.
I can't.
Yeah, it's like, look,
Network.
I'm here to give you a new supplement. I have
By the way,
supplement
Yes,
number
by the way.
5031.
We call it Insurrection X. You're gonna need it when you try to storm the Capitol and kill the globalists.
I swear it's not colored up duck candies.
I'm telling you, those globalists are having sex with demons.
You know what's sad here? The one person I actually want to have a little bit of a happy ending in all this is Alex Jones. Not like, right, he needs to pay for the Sandy Hook shit, but I think the happiest ending he can get is being one of the sponsors / advertisers on Trump's TV network.
Yeah.
At least then he'll constantly have consumers from the MAGA world, you know?
Yeah.
oh yeah, he will. But yeah, so seriously though, how have we gone about an hour or so into this program? How have we gone this long without mentioning that Bernie Sanders is the new meme of the internet?
Yeah, that's true.
With the power of these mittens, I will destroy the. I will destroy the billionaires.
I saw the post that may have kickstarted the meme. It's that the meme itself wasn't necessarily the mittens. It was that Bernie was dressed like he had better things to do than attend the inauguration. Like, it's like, okay, I'm here at the inauguration, but I've got like a bridge game at 5, so we can hurry us on here.
I'm not gonna lie. In the image, it actually looks like Bernie fell asleep in his chair.
Oh, Lord.
I'll have to go back and look at the replay, but I could have sworn that Bill Clinton did fall asleep during
Oh,
the
wow.
Biden's
People
speech.
do know that Bernie's older than Biden, right?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Actually, wait, I don't know if he is. Let me verify that. He might be younger.
I thought he was older, actually.
Oh no, he is older. Bernie is 79 years, so he's 1 year older than Biden. He's the same age as Mitch McConnell, and Nancy Pelosi, of course, takes the cake at 80 years.
So do you think a lot of these people are just gonna drop dead at the same time, or like a few months apart?
All I'm thinking now is just a mass death.
I feel like
Quick correction. Mitch McConnell's 78, so he and Biden are roughly the same age. But you see why I was so freaked out when people started contracting COVID up on D.C. Because if that spreads around to all the old people in government, you're basically looking at something equivalent to a decapitation strike.
Yeah, because again, there are a lot of old people in the government, and usually the older people are in the more powerful positions.
I just want to point out the whole reason Bernie Sanders was probably okay with compromising with Biden was because he offered enough to be sufficient to Bernie. And Bernie's like, I'm getting too old for this shit. All right, Biden, I'll take the deal.
Well, he is the chairman of the Senate Budgetary Committee now, I believe.
Yeah. So, in all honesty, Bernie got a really good deal out of this. He's actually in a position of power where he can affect the political change he wants.
Absolutely. I mean, I knew that. I mean, I told you guys that when we saw that the machinations by the DNC to kind of set the table for Biden back during the primary, I felt that there had to be some kind of incentive for these people to drop out. And now we see that Mayor Pete, he is, Secretary of Transportation or something, I think, like that. I don't think Klobuchar got anything, but she's fine where she is. Bernie, I knew, was going to get something in the cabinet, and I know he wanted Labor Secretary, and I totally get that. But Budget Committee and the Senate, that's not a bad place to be. That is not a bad place to be at all.
Yeah, it's like Biden's just looking over at him. It's like, look, we know you're not going to win the election. So here's the thing, Biden. So here's the thing, Bernie.
Oh, God damn it.
So here's the thing, Bernie.
Here's the deal, Bernie.
I can't put you in charge of the Labor Committee. That's too risky.
Department of Labor can't do it.
But I can put you in charge of how we spend the money.
Yes.
Bernie's like,
now go get me that COVID stimulus bill.
Bernie's like, I have complained about how we spend. Let me try and do my best Bernie impression. I have complained a lot about how we spend our money. I guess if I'm in charge of the spending, that's good enough. No. Sharp, he goes into the meeting and Bernie's like, I am asking you once again to consider me for Secretary of Labor.
I am asking you once again to consider me for Secretary of Labor.
Biden's just like, sit down, Bernie.
My Bernie's becoming a bit more like the Cowardly Lion.
Yeah, the key to doing Bernie is just do your best Larry David impression. That's really what it is.
Okay, yeah.
Fuck it.
That's it.
Yeah.
I get you.
I'll take the secretary. I'll take the budget committee. Yeah. But anyway, so these are the executive orders that Biden's got lined up for this week. On the 25th, they're calling it Buy American Day. He's going to sign an EO that will direct agencies to, quote-unquote, strengthen requirements for procuring goods and services from sources that will support U.S. businesses and workers. That's lovely. 26th, they'll focus on equity. The EO's plan for that day will create a policing commission and reinstate Obama-era policy on the transfer of military-style equipment to local law enforcement, establish steps to improve prison conditions and eliminate use of private prisons, formally disavow discrimination against the Asian American and Pacific Islander community, particularly, obviously, this is coming in light of what happened with COVID. He's also going to sign a memorandum directing Housing and Urban Development to take steps to promote equitable housing policies. The 27th, it's the Global Warming Day. He's going to sign an EO. He's not doing the Green New Deal. Sorry, AOC, but he will initiate regulatory actions to combat climate change domestically and elevates climate change as a national security priority, as well as reestablishment of the Presidential Council of Advisors on Science Technology. We'll also sign a memorandum on scientific integrity.
I think as long as Biden can focus his climate efforts on reducing the carbon footprint, that'll be good enough.
He does want us at net zero by 2050, which is a very, very realistic goal. It's going to have to survive a couple of administrations, but it's doable. It's very big.
I really wish we'd quit shooting right away for net zero, because we haven't even tried like net 20 or net 10 yet.
Well, that's the idea of setting it so far up by 2050, is that it'll give you time to get to net 20 or net 10 or whatever. It lets you don't have to get to net zero right away. Like there's times to like increment your way down.
What I hate is the idea that there could come a time that an administration comes that tries to roll back everything he tried to do. And
oh yeah, absolutely. Like I said, that's the thing about executive orders, that the next guy's going to come in and roll them all back. So that's why ultimately these are nice gestures, but they're going to have some serious political backing to get anywhere.
The only executive orders that are going to have any long-lasting political effect are all the ones involving coronavirus, because I'd like to imagine 4 years from now we're not still going to have it.
We'd hope so, but we'll see. Anyway, so the 28th, they're focusing on healthcare. Biden will rescind the Mexico City policy and review the Title X domestic gag rule. There may also be an executive action on Medicaid, as well as initiation of open enrollment under the Affordable Care Act. And on the 29th, we're looking at immigration with executive orders on regional migration and border processing, our refugee policy, and the establishment of a family reunification task force. This is undoubtedly to reunite the kids that were separated from their parents and still have not been reunited with them, as well as executive order directing immediate review of the public charge rule. Not quite sure what that is. As for the stimulus plan, they are looking at a $1.9 trillion COVID relief package, which is going to be their first major legislative piece of legislation they're going to try to pass. The package would include $1,400 bump for stimulus checks, more aid for unemployed, additional support for small businesses, and increased funding for vaccinations, among other things. It's already facing some pushback from the Republicans, but the Democrats may have some way around it. And the only other bit of news is that Biden had a perfectly normal call with President Macron of France.
Wow.
Isn't this great, guys? Like, we actually have, like, a completely boring news cycle here.
Yeah. Like, holy shit, boring is good.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Because it's my job to make this boring. It's my job to make this boring shit interesting. Media, don't do my job for me.
Yeah.
Like, fucking... It's a fucking comedian's job. It's like it's an entertainer's job to make this boring, informative shit entertaining. Like, that's just essentially the role comedians have thrust themselves upon. When it comes to the dissemination of information, we are depending upon comedians and entertainers to do a good job doing that.
Yeah. So that's kind of the groundwork right now for the Biden administration. The priority right now is to do executive orders to roll back the worst excesses of Trumpism, although they are still going to have to purge out the Trumpists still in the ranks. But they've already done that on the executive level. They fired a bunch of people that were kind of Trump's lackeys in the White House. And the legislative branch, you still have people like Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz, Marge Taylor Greene, Elise Stefanik, and so on and so forth. They're still there, but that's going to resolve itself over the next couple of years unless they decide to vote the 14th to get him out right away. And the primary objective right now is COVID relief. That's what their main priority is. That's fair. That's fair enough, okay? Because it sounds like these people actually have a plan to get this pandemic under control. But eventually, they're going to have to move on to more important business. And that leads into the second thing I wanted to discuss tonight. This is sort of the actual discussion part of the program here. One of the biggest consequences of the Trump administration is that we ceded pretty much all of our soft power on the international stage to other countries, particularly Russia and China. And we're in a position where we're going to have to find ways to respond to them because they're already testing us.
Yeah.
For the last couple of days, hold on a second, I got a ping here in the thing. Oh, what the hell is this? Bernie's Burgers? Oh my lord, I don't even want to know.
It's great. It's German985 did his own impression of Bernie Sanders. You'll love it.
So anyway, over the last couple of days, China has been flying fighter jets and bombers over Taiwanese airspace. They were close enough that that the Taiwanese military put surface-to-air missile batteries out and got them ready in case they had to shoot somebody down. And apparently the Beijing has now authorized the Coast Guard to fire on foreign vessels if needed.
They really are testing us.
Absolutely. This is designed specifically to test our response. And I can tell you that we have put a carrier group in the South China Sea. I can also tell you that a Signet plane based out of one of our recon wings in Okinawa is currently in the air, and it's heading toward Chinese airspace.
Yeah.
So we are looking at the situation. We are monitoring the situation, but what Beijing is doing right now, I mean, look, Beijing's got a mad on for Taiwan, okay? That's known. But this is not about them suddenly deciding to carpet bomb the island, okay? This is about, there's a new guy in charge in D.C. He's shown himself to be very, very different from the guy that was there, the guy that just got rid of. So let's see what we can get away with. Let's see.
Test him.
Yes.
And
so
I'm actually very curious to how we're going to respond to such an aggressive move. I hope it's not limp-handed.
Well, I mean, under Trump it would be, because Trump wants to be tough on China, but ultimately he just got fucking rolled by Beijing again and again.
If you wanted to be tough on China, Hong Kong should have been the point where you drew where you took your foot and drew your line in the sand, but you didn't. And we lost a strategic area when it came to trade between Europe and the United States. Fucking the CCP took Hong Kong, and we basically lost those trading ports to China. And we're never going to be able to live that down unless we.
Well, understand this. Hong Kong has been Chinese territory since the turn of the millennium, okay? And it wasn't our port, it was the British port. The British handed over Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And
the British never should have done that.
Yeah, I mean, we could debate as to whether or not that was ultimately the right thing for the Brits to do. I know I have some people in the United Kingdom that feel that it was a mistake on their part, but that was something that was a sore spot for China in the long time. But one of the big mistakes that we and I discussed in the program before, the biggest mistake we made with China was that we hoped that by including them in our trading partnerships and our economic partnerships, that would gradually get them to turn toward democracy. That didn't happen. Okay, if anything, they've gone even more authoritarian with Xi or Xi or however you want to call him,
I think,
declaring himself president for life.
I think the ultimate response, really in the standards of Hong Kong, here's why we should have acted. We should have answered the cry for democracy that was being silenced. By doing that, we're showing we're weak. We're showing we can't protect democracy.
Yeah, and that's the reason why South Korea is now looking toward Beijing for strategic and defensive purposes rather than us, because Trump was too busy getting a hand job from Kim Jong-un to look out for our friends there in the South China Sea. And again, this is part of the biggest impact that the Trump presidency had on the international stage, is that we spent so much time dicking around with our enemies, namely Russia and North Korea, that now our allies are no longer looking at us as a nation that can be trusted.
That can protect them at that.
They feel they can't count on us anymore. If you're France or Poland or Luxembourg or even Germany, and you all of a sudden are facing an uptick of Islamic terrorism, they might be more inclined now to turn to Russia for help than us.
One thing's for sure,
in terms of dealing with that problem.
One thing's for sure, we really need to start stepping our foot in the game of international trade more than we were prior. And it really needs to mean something to be an American ally. There have to be serious benefits that come with that. There has to be a strong reason to be pro-democracy and not a regime.
Yeah, and that was a big part of our foreign policy, during the Cold War. We provided, especially toward the end of it, when it became obvious how badly the Soviet economy was doing and how good the American economy was doing. And we told all those nations in Western Europe, if you stick with us, if you stick with NATO, not only are we going to have your back in the event that the Reds start coming, but we're going to bring you into this sphere of economic prosperity that we're building, and we're going to give you a hell of a lot better standard of living than you're going to find behind the Iron Curtain.
I think one thing we definitely should have stressed is even the way the United States does politics and activism, for example. There is no question we probably would have had a better job advocating domestically for international trade if the work unions fighting for workers in the United States had an internationally established presence to show, hey, you think you can just take those jobs and leave America because we're demanding better conditions? No. We've got an allyship with IG Metall over in Germany. You go there, they're going to raise the taxes on you.
Yeah.
We needed that kind of leverage. We needed the ability to essentially threaten them to make them play ball.
Well, here's the problem, okay? So, when it comes to a nation like, say, North Korea or Iraq, or maybe even Iran, it's easy to kind of bully them into cutting that shit out, okay?
Yeah.
If you just tell them, like, listen, knock this off or we will carpet bomb you to oblivion, they might listen. And with North Korea, it's worked. And we talked about this before. When it comes to North Korea's constant saber rattling, a lot of that is for the benefit of Kim Jong-un rather than anything else. Because he has the entire population convinced that they are actually the most powerful country in the world. That they're actually the people that the nation everyone fears. When in reality, they're looked upon as...
If we ever at any given one point decided to shake North Korea to its core, his people would probably question that. Like...
Oh, absolutely. Like, if O Plan 5029 was ever enacted and we just went, okay, we're going in, and we showed the people of North Korea what the world really thought of them, that would be the end of the Kim regime. So when Kim fires these short-range rockets into the waters of Japan or tests nuclear bombs, that's him flexing, but it's him flexing for his people.
Yeah,
he knows that if he's smart enough to know that if he actually tries anything, like if he actually tries to launch a missile at Hawaii, then we're going to turn all of North Korea into a fucking parking lot.
Did Japan though go to anyone for help, or are they just there helpless?
So here's the thing about Japan. The JSDF, the Japanese Self-Defense Force, is exactly that. They cannot engage in any offensive military actions because when we rewrote their constitution after World War II, we explicitly put that in. We said you cannot engage in offensive military action, so they are strictly self-defense.
Yeah, they can't defend themselves. They actually need a party to defend them. And the question is the American Navy, is the American military adequate enough to defend, defend Japan from North Korea?
Yeah, well, our position for the longest time has been yes, but under Trump it became, maybe
and who are they
we'll
going
see.
To go to for help? India? I mean,
China. They might have to go to China.
They hate China.
Exactly. That's part of the problem.
They fought fucking 1,000-year wars with China, and somehow we're going to make them form an alliance with that?
Japan, it would be a situation where it's like, see, the reason that South Korea is turning to China is because China is the only nation that North Korea will probably listen to. And we discussed this back when Kim Jong-un had his little death scare, and my belief is that perhaps Kim Jong-un's sister, Kim Yo-jong, who may very well now be running the show down in North Korea, because it definitely sounds
we
like
haven't seen Un in a fucking year now, so like...
Well, we saw him briefly after his health scare where there was evidence that he had some kind of procedure done, but I don't think he's been seen in public for a while now. I'll take a look at that, but I know that there's a lot of rumors coming out of North Korea that Kim Yo-jong may in fact be running the show now. Whether that's because Kim Jong-un is dead or she just said, fuck it, I'm in charge or whatever. Here we go. North Korea was in the news recently because they had to admit to their populace that COVID was a thing. So, and now Kim Jong-un is kind of in the same boat as China and Russia are, is that he has to see what he can get out of Biden. And Joe Biden has called Kim a thug. And so I don't think he's going to be quite as receptive to Kim as Trump was, who was constantly jerking himself off over the love letters that Kim sent him.
I think we definitely have to show Kim a show of power for all the bullshit he was doing the past few years. Go,
Yeah.
You do that again, your country's going to be smoldering ash. We don't care.
Yeah, so there's definitely so yeah, Kim's in a pretty tough spot right now. If he still is in charge, if he's still in charge, then that's one thing. It would be better for the Biden administration if he was in charge because Kim Yo Jong is a complete unknown. Like we only know, all we know about her is that she's been the nominal head of propaganda down there, and she's amassed enough soft power to kind of be second, at the very least, second in command, if not top dog outright out there.
I'll tell you this.
We don't know.
If Biden goes to confront Un, the next thing out of his mouth has to be a threat. Like, it has to be, hey, we know you were launching a lot of those short-range missiles, and you almost hit Japan. And I gotta tell you, and if you hit Hawaii, there's gonna be problems.
Yeah. Well, okay, so here's the thing. When it comes to North Korea, Iran, China, Russia, you don't have to go there and threaten them because you don't necessarily want to raise tension. This is why being president is such a hard job, because when it comes to countries that we don't like that much, you don't want to raise tensions, but you want to make it clear that it's in their interest not to try anything. So if I'm invested in the leadership of the nation for a minute, if I'm President Helios, what I do is I go to them and say, okay, Kim, Kim, Vlad, Z, whoever's in charge of Iran right now, here's the deal. We're under new management. It's not going to be like the old regime, okay? We're doing things differently now. And by that, I mean we're going back to how it was before you guys got a sweet deal, okay? We're not going to tolerate any foolishness from you lot, all right? So whether it's trying to interfere in our elections, trying to cheekily send missiles towards our interests, okay? We're not tolerating that anymore. Now, we're not going to go all out right away. We'll probably hit you with a couple of economic sanctions, but we are prepared to take direct action against you, to take offensive actions against you. Now, what do I mean by that? I don't mean flying the bombers in and leveling them. Okay, that doesn't accomplish anything. What you do instead is you try to see if you can get the people of those nations on your side. Because this is something you have to remember when you're in the American government. The people of those countries very often are not your enemy. Their governments are.
Yeah.
And if you can win over the hearts and minds of the people, that makes the job of getting rid of the government a whole lot easier.
I definitely think something along the lines of proxy war to spur on rebellion would be a good idea, and a bit of payback for what they did to us. Like
a proxy war. Well, okay, so that was essentially our Cold War policy. And it sounds nuts, okay? A proxy war is you don't have to send any of your guys in. You get other people to do the fighting for you. It sounds peachy. But you know what happens? The Korean War happens. The Vietnam War happens. What we did in Kosovo happens. You know, all that stuff. So proxy wars typically end up causing a lot more trouble than they're worth, in a sense that you get people who really don't have anything to do with your current situation involved in a bitter dispute, and you rarely, if ever, achieve your actual strategic objectives. But what I'm trying to stress is that there are ways to cause a government to lose power and influence without necessitating violence, which should be your ideal choice. Now, what's going on in Russia right now? A lot of protests against Putin. Some of the largest protests against Putin in years. And this is in...
I really think we should be helping those out, by the way. I think
we absolutely should.
They could
and this
depose
is in direct
Putin if those rebellions get strong enough.
Yeah, this is in direct response to a man by the name of Alexei Navalny. He has been the leader of one of the, perhaps the biggest thorn in Putin's side. He's a leader of the Russia of the Future political party.
So all right. So here's my thoughts then. For what Putin did in standards of like hacking our election and trying to manipulate our president and trying to gather information on United States soldiers and shit, and especially for putting hits on United States soldiers, one major thing we need to do, contact this Future for Russia organization and give them our full backing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if Biden came out and formally recognized, because the Russia the Future Party has not been formally registered as a political party by the Russian government for
If the
obvious
president
reasons,
of the United
because
States
they're...
came out and said it is a political party and it's big and it's powerful, that would make Putin shit his pants.
Yeah. So, but the reason that he's such of a big deal right now, Alexei Navalny, is because he was just arrested in Russia. He just traveled back to Russia after he, I believe, oh yeah, first of all, this guy was poisoned by nerve gas, and he had to be flown out to Berlin to recover. So that's how you know, by the way, you've really gotten on Putin's shit list, when he tries to kill you. And of course, Russian prosecutors have not opened a criminal investigation into the matter. And last week, he returned to Russia and was immediately arrested in Moscow and thrown in jail on what was basically a kangaroo court. So the Putin regime is definitely trying to get rid of this guy. And the big reason they're trying to get rid of him is because...
He's the biggest threat to the regime in a long time.
Well, yeah, it's not because necessarily he's a political insider or anything like that. No, he's not. He's a lawyer. What he has done, however, is that he's released a couple of is that his organization, the Anti-Corruption Foundation, has released a couple of documentaries about Vladimir Putin and Dmitry Medvedev, who has been Putin's lapdog for years. And it talks about how corrupt these guys are, because that is something that is not really of common knowledge to the Russian people, which is that Putin is not only a real-life James Bond villain, this guy is corrupt.
And they managed to disseminate this this documentary to the public somehow without the government being able to successfully censor it.
Well, it was released on YouTube.
Oh.
Yeah, it was released on YouTube. It got over 20 million views. By the next day, it was in the top 10 trending videos in 23 countries. It was #1 in Russia. And
I remember there being a guy who also lived in Russia who went to North Korea and documented a lot of the regime status stuff in North Korea and put it on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Is this the same? No, it's a different guy, right? Like.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, the movie that just came out about Putin alleges that Putin embezzled $1.35 billion, that's 1.35 US dollars, to build this huge like palace, basically, over at a site in the Black Sea. And it's talking about how this guy is like embezzling money from the Russian people, and it talks about how, for all of things, it just tells how Putin is so out of touch. He's basically he's not a man of the people. He is this rich asshole who is embezzling money from the Russian populace purely to fund his own selfish desires. And all this, of course, is very, very true. Because, as I've discussed before, the corruption in Russia is unbelievable. Over in Russia, the government, the military, the intelligence services, the business oligarchs, even the fucking mafia are all basically the same thing. It's like the closest analog you could possibly get to an evil organization like Hydra or Spectre. And Putin's got his hand in all of this. All right? That's how fucking corrupt it is over there. And this right here, by the way, I'm bringing this all up for a reason. This is how you weaken Putin's power, because again, this knowledge is not known to the Russian people. So if you go to the people of Russia and you tell them, this is what Putin is doing with your money. You're out here freezing to death in fucking Siberia, and your aunt and uncle are in a work camp because you ran an underground newspaper critical of the Putin regime. Meanwhile, he's sipping vodka and eating caviar in his fucking palace in the Black Sea on your money.
Yeah, and they wanted to kill him because if he keeps doing that, the seams of the dictatorship are going to start crumbling.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, like I said, you've got a lot of protests going on right now in Russia against Putin. Some of the largest demonstrations that have ever come out against Putin. And all of this, by the way, is in below freezing weather.
So here's the question, right? Like, if the United States wanted to strike hard at Putin, what can we do for these organizations that wouldn't result in a war?
Well, for what, like I said, Joe Biden can come out today and officially recognize the Russia the Future Party as a legitimate political organization, give his full support, and call for the release of Alexei. In fact, I'm not sure what our response has been. I want to take a look if we actually have given out a response. I want to say we have, but I'm not too sure. Because I know that when this was going on, Trump didn't give a shit. We know that.
But Biden might.
But yeah, let me see if...
Biden, there's a lot of stakes in this idea that we've got to be hardline getting payback against Russia, because if we don't, it's going to make America look weak. And we can do this in a way that is the purest cause possible. Voice of the people, we support Alexei, we support these organizations that are trying to crumble this fucking regime they have going on.
All right, so the international the international reaction so far, there's been a couple of reactions. The reaction from home, Ned Price, who's a spokesperson for the State Department, put out a statement in which the State Department condemned harsh tactics against protesters and journalists and called on the Russian authorities to release all of those detained for exercising their universal rights, because about 2,000 or over 2,600 people have been arrested so far during these protests. All right, so that's they've been cracking down on these protests big time. Price also said Russia needs to fully cooperate with the international community's investigation into the poisoning of Alexei Navalny and credibly explain the use of a chemical weapon on its soil. So I would like, I think, again, I mean, that's a statement. I would prefer if Biden himself came out and said something. He might this week, he might give a statement this week because this just happened. But yeah, that's a statement. And over in Britain, we have a statement from British Foreign Secretary.
I want to chime in really quick.
All right.
One goal I want to have going forward for the new year, because I really do genuinely think it could help and compel the United States efforts to topple the Russian regime, is left-wing activists around the world need to know the name Alexei Navalny. They need to know his name, and they need to spread the word, and they need to share these documentaries in the United States. Activists and like unions of the world need to be full on board with giving this guy their full support. And
Absolutely.
we could probably topple Putin's regime together.
We probably could. Like, if there is to be a homegrown if there's to be a homegrown revolt against the Russian government, one that's inside that occurs inside Russia, then it's gonna have to come through guys like Navalny.
What would be detrimental to Putin is once the idea of Alexei Navalny or Russia for the future reaches beyond Russia's borders and it's talked about outside of Russia, Putin won't be able to control it. And at that given point, these people will have places to go and allies to rely on in order to further their revolution against the Russian regime. And this is something that's going to be necessary, because I genuinely think an international presence is something that can give rebellions and fights for democracy power they would not have originally had during the Iron Curtain.
By the way,
allied territories and governments coming out to denounce Putin.
By the way, since you brought up how maybe leftist organizations might support him, Navalny is actually not only is he one of the very few Russian politicians who have spoken out in support of the Black Lives Matter movement, he is currently the only political leader in Russia who's in favor of the legalization of same-sex marriage.
Okay, so LGBT community, BLM, you have a reason to support Navalny. If anyone has the power to spread that fucking message internationally, it's movements this massive. And these movements need to have solidarity with each other, because without democracy, there is no chance for black people, for gay peoples, to be seen as people in Russia. Without democracy, without the freedom to voice one's voice, there are gay people and black people in Russia that will forever go silenced by Putin.
Yeah, I mean, Gay people in Russia are literally sent off to concentration
Literally
camps.
what?
Like,
Literally what?
gay people in Russia are literally sent off to concentration camps.
Yeah, so let's point that out. They're sent off to concentration camps, and this Alexei guy is the best ally these movements have to save these people.
Mm-hmm.
This has to be something we all rally behind. Like, because if not, a golden opportunity to finally defeat Putin and his bullshit regime is going to slip through our fingers.
Yes.
Because if Alexei dies without his message having spread across the world, Putin wins. Like, but once that message is outside Russia, Putin won't be able to stop it. He won't be able to silence it.
I mean, look, we missed a huge opportunity with the Hong Kong protests to maybe cause a shift in how Beijing runs things. Okay, if we got more involved with Hong Kong than we did, if major U.S. corporations outright came out and said, we are not going to do business with China until they withdraw the support for this extradition bill, there could have been a real opportunity to create a dramatic shift in the politics of Beijing. That could have happened. We didn't do it. We failed. We have a chance here right now if we just give support to this opposition movement and really
I don't know. There are some organizations, if they give their backing, there's probably ways they can sneak resources, supplies, much needed things to Alexei and these groups to strengthen the rebellion.
Absolutely. Like, we are very, very good at that as Americans. We're very good at covertly sending resources to people. So we could absolutely do that.
Yeah.
But this is a huge chance for us now. We all have something to gain out of this, too. You know, again, if you're in Russia, you have a chance to get rid of this regime that has corrupted your nation. If you're a leftist activist, you have an important ally in your causes. And even if you're not, if you're just a guy on the right that wants to get rid of Putin, I mean, this is your shot to kind of create like a homegrown opposition to Putin that's inside Russia. And so
I think the only thing people have to potentially worry about is if Putin starts sicking the Russian mafia on individual targets.
Well, that may already be happening. I don't think they're really... And that's the other thing I want to point out here.
There could be insurrectionists in the United States supporting the rebellion in Russia that the fucking Russian mafia is just whacking off.
You know, I will say this. Alexei Navalny, he went back to Russia, knowing full well what was going to happen, knowing full well that as soon as he set one toe on Russian soil, they were throwing his ass in jail. He knew that, and he went back. By doing that alone, he is infinitely more brave than every single congressional Republican who, after the insurrection, still voted against certifying the election.
Yeah. This is a golden opportunity to show what America is made of and to show what it is these movements in the United States who have largely gone misrepresented actually believe. Like, if we support the Russian rebellion and we win and we overturn Putin, no amount of media lies or misinformation will ever hide what we did this year. Ever. They will never be able to suppress it. They will never be able to stop the truth.
Yes. But again, the main thing here is that Joe Biden, sooner or later, is going to have to tackle the problem of how do we get our soft power back? How do we deal with Russia? How do we deal with China? And that's going to take time. It's not going to happen all in one night. But the way to do that is, unfortunately, weakening those governments. This is what Russia did with us. They got Trump. I mean, when they stormed the Capitol building, like I said, Putin had some vodka in one hand and a cocktail in the other. That was the end game, is to get America so destabilized that we couldn't really throw away around the national stage anymore. Well, now we're in a chance to do the same thing to them.
If we see a rebellion or an information campaign to get back at these people and the way they fucked with us, we need to back these things tenfold. But on top of that, the world would be a much better place if these regimes were democracies.
Yes.
And that's a cause worth fighting for, especially if there are truly people that believe in global rights for gay people, people that believe in global rights for black people. You're only going to achieve that by defeating the regimes that exist. Otherwise, those people will go forever silenced. You have a choice, America. You can sit here and say, it's not my problem, it's not my concern. Or you can choose to stand for something that's bigger than you. Something that would undoubtedly not only help friends and allies across the ocean, but would assist the very cause you believe in here on our soil. Because it would not be without question that BLM, that the LGBT community, through their strength, their determination, their lack of fear against the Russian mafia, and their will to help destroy and defeat Putin, took care of one of America's biggest enemies when our fucking government couldn't. That will be an undeniable truth that will reign through fucking history. They will never be able to suppress it. They will never be able to hide it.
No. All right, that seems like a nice, weighty note to end the show on. Ren, Gonzo, you guys have been kind of quiet. You got anything you want to add?
I essentially got nothing.
Yeah, same here. Nothing.
Say we have blown. Sharp and I have blown your minds with the brilliance of our takes.
Not really. No, just we don't have anything else to add.
Like,
That's fair.
yeah, we're just going so incredibly hard. It's like, what can you add on to it? Like, holy shit.
It's not
perfect.
like you're.
It's perfect the way it
you're
is.
going soft on us.
No. No, I'm going hard, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, before we wrap up here, a couple of notes before we wrap up. One thing I do want to mention, a bit of breaking news here. Gonzo mentioned this before we started, but we didn't really have a place to fit it into the program. Gonzo, you're our news guy, so go ahead and
basically, Sarah Huckabee Sanders is going to be announcing her bid to run for governor of Arkansas.
So, on one hand, everything Trump touches dies. On the other hand, it's Arkansas. It's a pretty red state. Scarlett could go down there and register as a Republican, and she'd probably still win. So we'll see what happens. I think I'll be curious to see if someone tries to primary her, because I think if she has a primary challenger, it's going to be a lot tougher. I can also tell you that Liz Cheney, one of the Republican members of the House that voted to impeach Trump, she is getting a primary challenger in her district in Wyoming, and the primary challenger is Q adjacent, which shouldn't surprise anybody at this point.
You know, my dad's side of the family is from the South. I might ask my dad for some input regarding that. Just for his opinion and such.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a couple of friends of mine down in Arkansas as well. I'm going to see if I can ping them and get a read of the things down there.
My dad grew up in Arkansas. That's why I was like, yeah, my dad.
Bro, Helios, something that would be badass is like if you and Scarlett established a fucking alliance and created your own canvassing group.
I mean, we'd have to be in the same state, but we'll see.
I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't know. What's the rule of creating a canvassing group?
Not too sure.
Like, yeah, y'all would have to be in the same state, but it's like if you and Scarlett could travel, you could probably you could probably canvass the Democratic vote in Arkansas and see how large it is.
No, we probably could. Yeah, that'd be something.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a nice thing to think about. Yeah. All right, so a couple other things. So this is something that we have discussed many, many times on this program, and people have been asking me, when's it going to happen? I'm referring, of course, to playing games with obvious political themes and doing commentary on them. I was thinking, depending on my schedule,
Right.
we could start that this week.
Oh fuck, a double feature?
Well, I don't know about I don't know if it's just gonna be, like I said, depends on the show. I don't know if we could do it like in addition to the regular show, or if it would replace the regular show, or whatever. It would depend on like what my schedule is and stuff like that. But I was thinking that if we are going to start recording this on Thursdays or Fridays now, then probably it would have to be something separate in its own right. But if we were to do it on the weekends, then it would be something I could do on the weekends.
Before it was definitely like we could just take like political themes and games and stuff and just implement that into the Sharpcast. And the more I think about it, the more this theme genuinely feels like it should fit its own individual content.
You might be right there. But like I said, we can work that out. But yeah, for those of you wondering, that's something we talked about for a while, is like going through games with obvious political themes and just kind of me giving commentary on the themes, their inspirations. We are going to be starting with BioShock 1 because that is the one I can draw the most from, because that is a critique specifically of the ideologies that I have. So it's easier for me to come at that and go, okay, this is what they're saying, and this is why they're saying it's a good / bad idea. And most importantly, it's BioShock. So, I mean, who doesn't like watching people play BioShock? And then after that, we're going to do BioShock Infinite, because I feel it's the game that's the most analogous to what we just went through as a nation. And again, it lets us like kind of look back and look at really what happens when you leave your nationalism unchecked, when you leave your patriotism unchecked, when you take your admiration of the founders to outright worship. And in many ways, it really is the logical extension of Trumpism. Except this being a Trump production, there probably won't be a flying city. That's probably not happening. Yeah. But then, it's going to be the BioShock games, and that will take however long it will take, because I don't know how long these sessions are going to be. They're going to be played on, like, fucking easy mode, mind you, because this is supposed to be a commentary. It's not like a fucking challenge run or anything. I'm not here to like die repeatedly and spend an hour on one level. That's not what we're trying to do here. So it's going to be easy mode. But then after that, we're probably going to do the Deus Ex games. I haven't decided if we're going to just do the Adam Jensen games, or if we're going to do the because I haven't finished the original Deus Ex, so that's something that we'll look at later. And a couple of other games that I've thought about. I've thought about, this isn't really a politics kind of game, but it's more of like a cultural kind of game. Either the Black Ops Cold War campaign or World in Conflict, because both of them give a really, really good sense of what the political situation was like in the 1980s. The latter particular is a really, really good, like, Cold War going hot style scenario, like a what-if kind of scenario. I would
definitely still count that as a political thing, not necessarily, like, criticizing a position of politics, but definitely portraying a position in history.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, one of the things I appreciate about the Black Ops Cold War campaign is that, as unrealistic as it is, it does give you a really, really good sense of just the mood at the time, of, like, the political mood at the time.
Like, I saw a bit of Black Ops Cold War, and I was actually surprised on how well they did going back into Black Ops. The only thing I was disappointed by is, like, I was totally fucking expecting a Nazi zombies with, like, Ronald Reagan and Gorbachev and shit.
You can't have everything.
I know.
You can't have everything. I mean,
it's the thing, right?
Reagan and Gorbachev are in the game. They are in the game, so that's something.
They are in the game. The thing that bothered me so much about that, though, was, like, just how at the very end of the first Black Ops they fucking immediately hit you with 5, and then you're at, like, the Pentagon with McNamara.
Reagan, Castro, McNamara, and Nixon.
JFK, Castro, McNamara, and Nixon. And that was fucking great. Like, I don't care who you are, that thing is fucking timeless.
That was.
And I just wanted them to capture that magic again, because for some reason, I love the idea of, like, fucking old man Reagan killing Nazi zombies. That would just be so badass.
It might be in a future
Just like
DLC,
the government's
we'll
overfed, but so are you. Like, the fucking lines that would come out of him. It'd be so good.
It's morning in America.
It's morning in America.
I can't help it. There you go again. Did I ever tell you guys my favorite Ronald Reagan line?
There you go again.
No. This was like an off the cuff line that was made like as a joke in a warm up for the press conference. This was like when he was starting for a radio address from his vacation home in California, and so I'm gonna play the audio, and I'll link you guys Gonzo. I will link you the audio so you can actually splice it into the thing later on. But hopefully you guys can hear this. Here we go.
My fellow Americans, I'm pleased to tell you today that I've signed legislation that will outlaw Russia forever. We begin bombing in 5 minutes.
We've outlawed Russia forever. We begin bombing in 5 minutes.
We begin bombing in 5 minutes.
That's funny.
Yeah, and so like I said, this was
bombing in 5 minutes.
This sounds like an old guy that just had a really good sense of humor.
So
I'm thinking now is like.
So again, this was him basically doing a sound check on the microphone, and it was just an off the cuff joke. And at the time, but they already had actually patched in the feed to all the radio stations because it was a live radio address. So a lot of those stations were recording that when he made the joke, even though they didn't broadcast it live. And eventually they initially, so both CBS and the other networks, they kept the remarks under wraps because the White House asked them not to. This is actually because of a incident in 1982 where Reagan was going to announce his cancellation of Poland's most favored nation status in response to the suppression of the Polish trade union Solidarity, which is kind of their underground resistance movement. Reagan called the Polish government, which is then run by the military, a bunch of no good, lousy bums. That actually got aired by ABC and NBC, and as a result of that leak, they were like, okay, this is obviously off-the-cuff statement. We're not going to publish that in the future because, it makes him look bad and it's not an official statement. So we're just not going to publish that stuff from now on. So they didn't initially broadcast the joke, but then rumors started spreading. And by August 13th, the actual quotation had been published by various newspaper outlets. So eventually it got out. But, and again, this was just typical Reagan. Like, he often did this during sound checks. Like, he'd often just come on and say, like, something like, really off the cuff and humorous and so on and so forth. Naturally, the Soviets...
This just made me, like, want to have him in Black Ops Zombies more. Because he would have been such a great character.
Yeah. Now, naturally, the Soviets didn't like it all that much. The Soviets, they weren't too amused by the joke. And actually, his poll numbers took a bit of a hit. And Walter Mondale, who was running against him at the time, they were actually thinking, "Hey, we got something here." But ultimately, the Democrats, as I've mentioned before, they don't know how to play the political game, and eventually it came out as the criticism of the joke actually worked against them because it came across, and stop me if this sounds familiar, incredibly hypersensitive while Reagan was calm, cool, and collected.
I love it.
Yeah, but I guess this was actually listed as Reagan's sixth best quote throughout his that he ever made.
Man, only a sixth? What's his first?
I don't know. I'll have to take a look at that. Yeah, this is okay.
What's number one? I want Reagan's number one quote.
Mr. Green, you turn on microphone. You asked for me if you would. I am paying for this microphone, Mr. Green.
Yeah, this is the Deseret News, a Lakers published outside of Utah. Let me take a look at. Okay, Ronald Reagan's 10 best quotes here. Unfortunately, not found. Let me take a look to see if Google has a crawl of it.
Yeah.
Reagan 10 best.
I want to take a guess though. You know what I think his number one quote is?
Tear down this wall.
Tear down this wall. I think that's his number one quote.
Yeah. Let's take a look at Reagan.com, the 10 best Reagan quotes. Let's see here. This isn't the list that we saw, unfortunately, but that's the way it goes. But yeah, Scarlett's gonna hear this episode to turn into like a Ronald Reagan love fest, and she's gonna be like, "Oh God."
Well, if we can conclude with just you finding that quote, we'll be all good.
Yeah, we begin bombing in 5 minutes.
I'm assuming. Scarlett doesn't really like your Republican sweetheart.
No. It's like, look, when it comes to Ronald Reagan, when you're on the right, you have to worship him as a hero, and when you're on the left, you kind of have to think of him as an old bastard. That's kind of the way it works. I mean,
yeah,
that's just it is what it is. I mean, I would probably feel the same as I would feel the same way towards Jimmy Carter as Scarlett probably feels toward Ronald Reagan. So yeah, that's the way it goes. Yeah. All right. So
in both cases, old man president.
On that note, we're gonna wrap up with Reagan bombing in 5 minutes. So
Reagan bombing in 5 minutes.
Yeah. Actually, that reminds me, another game we should add to the political game queue, and I might actually move it to the front, is the Machine Games Wolfenstein games, because they actually offer a pretty good look at life under Nazi Germany and what a Nazi-occupied world would probably be like. Also, you get to kill Nazis in amazingly satisfying manner, so it's a lot of fun. All right.
Pretty good.
Oh, yeah. All right, so that's it for us tonight. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will be back with you with more news, more discussions, and some games now. We actually start playing some games since we no longer have to worry about the world coming to an end on a daily basis. Lucky us.
Gaming time!
Yes.
I genuinely actually want the first Black Ops to come to PC. And the reason as to why is I want to be able to play the 5 mission with the freaking Sharpcast crew.
Oh God, that would be nothing. That would be insane. You could actually get it on the Black Ops 1 was compatible with Xbox One. I don't know if it's compatible with the new Xbox, but it's really, really cheap on the Xbox store right now, actually.
Yeah, if I can get it on the Xbox One, I might consider that, because I do have.
Yeah, I've played it on the Xbox One. It's backwards compatible.
But then, Scarlett would also have to have an Xbox One, because
She does have an Xbox. She does have an Xbox.
I really want Scarlett to be JFK.
Yeah, she does have an Xbox, because I played a bit of the Wolfenstein Youngblood with
Helios,
her.
You can either be Nixon or McNamara.
I'll be McNamara.
I'm gonna be Castro, man. That fucking Cuban cigar smoking motherfucker.
All right, that's gonna do it for us today. Thank you all for listening. Stay positive, test negative, and we will see you all next time. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Take care, ladies and gentlemen.
Bye.